really big on maximizing our water use here. Part of it because we want to use our rainwater, and that's going to be a very valuable resource for us. I built a pretty simple system here. It's this little box. It's got a little microcontroller and a custom circuit board I made. Okay, the controller's on, and it's looking at these two probes, but what it's finding is that the ground is wet because we've just been watering. Now, if I pull one of the probes out and it has no connection, it turns on the irrigation system. Put the probe back in the ground, and it shuts off. I wanted a system that was smart enough to know I don't need to water. I've been watered recently, or it's raining outside, I'm not going to turn on. So, just to make the best use of our water, not to overwater.
Sweetie, we already have a lot of wind, so I think we should work on the dome as the next thing.
Okay, well, breakfast ready.
Oh, okay. The first 4 or 5 months of living on this property was remodeling a 40-year-old mobile home. We didn't know how to use power tools. I had a sewing machine. He had a soldering setup, and that was like it. So we had this 40-year-old mobile home, and we were like, should we live in this? Can we repair it? And we did. What we wound up with is about 1,500 square feet of like incredible living space that cost us about $10 a square foot. So all these seedlings are this year's garden. We have awesome stuff. We have garbanzo beans, sage, dill, cilantro, opium poppies. Very important when they stop delivering to the pharmacies. It's one of the most beautiful natural remedies for headaches and cramps and pain and, God forbid, an emergency. I really want to do my own dental work. I'm fascinated about it, and I've done like minor things. I don't know, when I was a kid, I used to freak kids out and take like sharp objects and push them through my gums and out the other side. I think I used to do it through my tongue too, actually, just to freak the kids out. Like, I don't know. I like the dentist. I don't mind going, and he loves me because I always do everything with no anesthesia, and I have a mirror and I watch.
This dome is a 300 square foot dome that we're going to try to use as a guest room, and we're using as much waste materials as we can so that it won't require any energy. It won't have any heating or cooling systems built into it. All the heat will come through the sun on the south facing windows here and doors. And people would stay here like they'd stay in a hotel, except they'd have, you know, the D.I.Y. hotel experience.
I've been an event producer in New York for 20 years, so I produce events. You know, for me, it's all about how do I get people into one spot and then do interesting things with them. I want to have like the whirling dervishes from Turkey, and I want to have the Gyuto monks from Tibet, and bring some culture and some ecstatic state and interesting performances.
I'm sure they'll be very impressed with our RV park.
Yeah.
There you go, that sounds great.
Because we chose this route and we're really strict in adhering to it, it's just going to take us a long time. So it's hard to watch all these things open, and I'm like, oh, I want to do my thing, you know, but I have to build it first. So I always return to, you know, that idea of not to miss that I'm getting what I wanted. I wanted to build, I wanted to live like this, and I shouldn't miss it, you know. So I remember to love this part, and I do love it. All right. That's good. I think we can get we can lock it. I've only been gardening for 2 years, but you know, you learn a lot by doing. Seeing life that wasn't there, you're like, I made life happen, you know? We get our dirt from the Rio Grande. We go harvest it ourselves, and it's pretty sandy, so we mix it with clay. Oh, you got that clay.
You want the red clay?
I thought you were going to get the red clay right here by the paper. Sorry, sweetie. We have our areas of expertise. So, you know, in gardening, I have my dick on, so to speak. And in electronics, he certainly has his.
Things get really heavy once you start producing your own power, your own fuel. You start to see the relationship between everything. Once you're doing your own fuel, you don't drive more, even if you have free fuel, because it's a pain in the ass. You got to go make all the fuel. You know, when you're producing electricity, you don't just use more electricity because it's free. You probably use less because it costs so much initially to build it all, and you're so aware of like the ramifications of using a bunch of power in one day and not having it for the next. You start to think in terms of kilowatts about everything. Okay, well today what I'm going to do is check on a battery that I've been trying to repair. These two batteries I started repairing yesterday through a desulfation charging process, and what I'm going to do is see how much they've improved after 24 hours. Removing the desulfators and chargers. and you look at a reading on this hydrometer inside here, this is in the red. This is terrible. It's red zone. Plants do a lot of great things for us because you can eat them, and you know, they put oxygen in the air. And batteries do a lot of great things. It's sort of the unappreciated resource of our day. I used to work in New York for about 8 years for an investment bank. Worked in their IT department, and I had dreadlocks working on Wall Street and had to wear a suit. It was just a matter of, you know, showing up for work each day, and it was really unrewarding. So I decided to leave that and go do something that meant a little more to me. So to go back to your question, is there a day that we think is coming that we're going to need all the stockpiled stuff and we won't be able to get things like food or fuel or other stuff? Yeah, I think there is that time coming. I have no idea what that'll actually look like or when that would be, but I do think there'll be a time where there's going to be some shortages. And I think what we're going into now is going to be much worse than the Depression, where we have hyperinflation at the same time that we have a loss of workforce. There's no reason to think the U.S. should be exempt from this. I mean, this is what it's like to live in parts of Africa today. I mean, this is what it's like to be poor in India. I mean, eventually we're going to experience this.
I started to just get this this wave of information in about 1998 that the monetary system was going to collapse, and you know, and I just saw like this whole wave of change and the way society was going to shift. And anyway, it was really profound for me, so I immediately responded to it, and I quit all normal forms of employment and started to learn to weld and teach yoga and do things that I thought were more valuable outside of a monetary system. That was like my jumping off point, and it happened to match nicely with Mikey's position of being done with living in a cube for work and being done with, you know, being sort of working for the big brother or whatever. So it worked that we both were ready to leap. I think we should set a goal, sweetie, that within like by the end of the summer that we should have at least 2 types of cheese. In terms of making our own cheese.
I don't want to get a nut cheeses because it's kind of dangerous making real cheese.
Yeah, but people have been making cheese since the beginning of time.
People have been dying from cheese since the beginning of time.
This is the difference between us. I'm like, let's jump off the cliff, let's jump. And he's like, let's get a parachute. Let's be safe.
I think there's a lot of confusion around homesteading between homesteading survivalists and sort of back to the land city kids. You know what I mean? So the difference, I think, is the survivalist version is going to have a lot more ammo. They're going to be all about like hunting animals or shooting neighbors who take their shit and like more canned food and stuff. And I think the back to the land city homesteader is going to be a lot less on the violent side and a lot more about just self-sustaining.
Original conservatives that we politically call conservative were the back to the landers. So it's like, you know, all these terms, they get so muddied. It's like, what does anything mean anymore, you know? I don't know. Okay, time to eat. Okay. Our plan was constructed based upon the desire to spend all our money, anything we saved for retirement, anything that was in the stock market, and convert it into resources we can live off of, which included the building of a property that could provide income.
You know, I think that we can get to a point where we're making enough income that we're not just throwing money out every month into building, and our costs are so low with minimal outside labor. So
well, that's one thing that homesteading gives you. Your lifestyle costs get lower, 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 and the goal really is to get almost to a neutral point where you're taking care of yourself and you don't have to spend money. Not an aggressive lifestyle we designed for ourselves. It's a very moderate, like we'll have enough to live and we won't drive a Lexus and we won't care. It's not based on abundance materially, but abundance in like quality of life.